Marie and Elena, I actually unmuted you, so you guys can mute and unmute yourself. Feel free to stop me or jump in or anything. Um, so the whole look of my thing just changed. So I don't know what's happening. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I hope that everybody had a wonderful long break. I know for most of us, it's just prepping us for even longer break, right? Sorry to call this meeting right on Monday, and let's get started kind of thing, but we wanted to get this information to you as quick as possible. There's two things we're going to talk about today. One is the AO process. We're going to do some changes with that. We met with Joanna last week, and she gave us some information and wanted us to make some changes, so we're going to talk about that. And then also the portfolio competency. And I would say we've probably been talking about this a little over a month, and we've been meeting with the Core 4, so a lot of thought has went into that. I'm going to be talking about the AO stuff, and then I think I'm passing it off to Elena to talk about the portfolio competency. All right, so basically, when Joanna met with us and wanted to talk about AOs, when we first started doing AOs, I think she was just sort of getting a glance to see how it would work, how we were grading the students and how everything was doing. But I think she's ready to dig in a little bit deeper. And even I get the feeling, even when talking from her, like we're at one point now that we may even dig deeper a little later. So we're probably going to see some changes in December, maybe some in January, and then maybe later down the road, it might even change a little bit again. So just to give you a little bit of a broader picture of what that looks like. So basically for the month of December, and I don't know if it's going to continue for January or not, or if she's just going to look and see how December goes. We're going to complete an AO for every student. So what that means for all of us is that we're going to do it for the happiness quest, just like we've been doing. And then for those of you, the three of you that are in the test group, she said you guys would do it after grading week 2. So overall, I guess how they're doing in week 2. And if you have questions of what that looks like, you probably want to direct it more towards her, since I'm not really familiar with how that looks. Let me pull up the rubric. So we're completing it for every student. So in my mind, it's almost as while I'm grading, I might be doing it at the same time and writing that down. But of course, whatever goes easiest, whatever process is easiest. So looking at the rubric. And this rubric's hard for me to look at. I don't know if it's my old age or what's going on here. But now we're actually going to grade on 3 separate things. If you look at the reflection, that's what we have been grading on. I think we reworded it a little to make it a little easier, but that's been exactly our rubric that we've been using. So now she's added these 2 other sections. And then there was actually 5, and we grade out 2 of them, and that's where I'm saying maybe later she might want us to grade on all 5. Let's see. I don't know if there's questions. I just see Marie and Elena. Just for the happiness quest assignment? Yes, just for the happiness quest assignment. So now we have these 3 sections, so you'll be grading each one individually. Robin is creating a document for us. I don't know what it looks like. I'm hoping it's in Google Docs or something to where you could just put it in your students there and you're going to put in a number grade for each one of those sections. So every student, and then every student's going to have those 3 sections with the 3 grades. Does that make sense? But it's not grades, the numbers, you know what I mean. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. One of the nice things is she said, we do not need to keep the PDF of the rubric. No, Stephanie, we don't need to save the rubric anymore, so we don't need a hard copy. So again, this is why I almost see like you're grading and then you look at this and you just write down what their numbers are. If a student did not complete it, we're going to give a 0. So you would just put a 0 in that section if the student didn't complete it. And I think part of it too, she said she sort of wanted to look at what kind of scores they were getting and what kind of grades they were getting and see if there was any correlation there. So don't let that change anything you would grade. Keep grading how you grade, because I'm sure we're all doing it correct. But I guess we'll have to wait and see how December goes to see how she wants to keep doing it for January. Any questions about that? I see lots of thumbs ups. No questions. Hey,
And
that
I
was
know,
easy.
Wendy, I just want to add real quick, just
Uh-huh.
to make sure, for the people that are teaching campus at any point in time during all of this, just to be clear, like we'll be using this new rubric and just the happiness quest. I know that Anne put it in the discussion board, but I want to make sure that everybody saw it or hears it. So that'll change a little bit if you're teaching on campus.
Thank you, Angela. Stephanie, well, from what she explained to us in the accreditation process, they want to look to make sure that we're hitting, that students are learning from our outcomes. So that's sort of what the data reflects. Though when you think about, for PYP, it's only first or second month students, it should only hit a certain point. You know, as we were talking about initiative, we're going to have some students that might be higher in initiative and some students that might be lower in initiative. And to us, it sort of seems okay, right? Because they're just learning, and it's just their first or second month. Again, she wants us actually, the course directors, to come up with a hypothesis of what we think the scores are going to be. So that's something we still have to sit and work on. Like, where do we think our students would be on these rubrics, the majority of the students? I don't know if that helps to answer your question or if anybody wants to add anything else in. Okay, good. Perfect. All right, I think Elena Knoll is up next.
All right, can you guys hear me okay? Yes, okay, perfect. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Okay, so we are going to talk about the portfolio competency. As Wendy said, we've kind of been working on this for about a month now in our Core 4 meeting that we have monthly. And we came up with a blurb that has been added to our sections. And I'll go into what that looks like in a second here. But just overview, it is a self-reflection activity, and it's something that's going to be going towards their portfolio, hopefully. That's the ultimate goal. The activity is unweighted, and if the students do not complete it, they will lose 20 points for their GPS, okay? So you'll see it as an unweighted activity on the platform. If you decide to go on the platform, you will see that it is the second to last activity right above the student course evaluation, and it's in week 4. Yes, but it's at the bottom. Thank you. And I also, oh, thank you, Marie. We have a visual. So she's got it laid out right there. I also just copied and pasted to the PYP Big Huddle doc if you want to view it that way. So the portfolio competency is now a required component for all of Core 4. So PYP and CRP are employing this month, and then English and the overview class will be following suit. The idea, where this idea stems from, is Joanna and the other education directors, they had to read an e-portfolio book. This may sound familiar to you because I don't know if it was maybe 2 meetings ago of the department meetings, Joanna mentioned this e-portfolio book that they had to read, and I believe she asked if anybody was interested in reading it and they could join in with their reading group. I have no idea if anybody was on board with that and jumped to do that. I personally did not. Fail on my part. But if you did read it, great, then you know all about this. If you didn't, that's okay too. So they read the e-portfolio book and they decided that it would be beneficial for the students to have a reflection piece. They should be able to self-reflect by the time they get out of Core 4, and this competency piece could be attached to their portfolio later on. So eventually they hope that it can be automatically pulled and added to the students' portfolio classes later. And Joanna also mentioned the possibility of using this in future assessment for accreditation. It could eventually replace AO. So they have a lot of different ideas kind of going through their mind about how this could be used. The reason why I tell you all of that backstory is that it is very important to not rename the activity, because if they do decide to use this as something that's pulled directly from the class files, it has to have that specific name. I might need to mute. I don't know if this is Spoto. I think that might have been Spoto. Okay, sorry, Spoto, I muted you. I heard some background noise. So if you could just try and resist, please don't rename that activity. Now, the prompt for the activity, if you've given it a once-over, the language is very similar for all of Core 4 classes. There are just some slight variances, but for the most part, it's the same. In every class for the Core 4, it addresses the course outcomes. That's what we're wanting them to reflect upon. You can see down lower, if you were to scroll onto the Huddle doc, you see some guided questions for them for the self-reflection. In all of Core 4, they're going to be using the RISE model for self-reflection. I also pasted that on there on the document. We tried to create questions that spoke to this RISE model and gave them a framework to work off of. It's a short essay, so in our mind, we thought short essay would be at least one paragraph just to give you guys a baseline. This is an all or nothing assignment, so you will only deduct points from the student's GPS if they didn't complete the assignment. The CDs, we talked about it, at minimum, we're looking for a paragraph for them to reflect on the course outcomes. Now, with saying that, if a student were to write the same thing in 4 sentences, which at times they do, this class was really fun, I really enjoyed this class, I learned a lot from this class, I'm glad I took it, that didn't reflect on any of the outcomes or touch upon any of the guided questions that we've given them, I would not give them the 20 points in the GPS. I would deduct 20 points in GPS for that, okay? So some of it is going to have to come from you assessing the level of depth that they're putting into it. But we don't want this to be an intensive grading process because, again, it is unweighted. So it's not, super involved that you need to be going and having the self-reflection rubric open and then also the questions open and checking, did they answer every single little thing? Because those questions really, they're serving as kind of a jumping off point for them to reflect on the outcomes and the experience that they had this month. Now, if they're not on topic and they just go on a rant of how they didn't like the class and they didn't, there was no takeaway, then that's something you probably want to sit down with one of us and just let's work through it and talk it out to see if we think whether or not they should get the points for that. But we really do want it to kind of reflect on the course outcomes and the experience of the month. I know some of you guys really like to clear out your activities and you like to have the green check marks. I totally get it. In that case, you can put 100 in there if you want to, or a 0 if they didn't get the credit for it, just to zero those out, but just know that that is not a requirement. And then you may choose, and I'll get to your questions here in a second. I'm just trying to make sure I get the information out there. So you may, and other CDs, feel free to respond to the questions in the text box as well. You may choose to respond to the reflections, but detailed feedback is not expected. I know for many of us, if they've written a dissertation and they've poured their hearts out and they've really gone into depth with their self-reflection and it's clearly very transformative, you're going to want to write something. You're going to be inclined to write something. So I would just say be authentic and be yourself, and whatever you feel like you want to write. If you feel like you don't want to write feedback, that's okay too. It's not the expectation. So, okay, I got through my little spiel here.
Okay.
Marie has a question that she'll. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, good. You guys can hear me. I just wanted to answer Viet's question about editing or changing anything in the prompt. I'm assuming you're talking about what we have written down or what's written down on the platform itself with the overview of the activity and the questions and the outcomes. they were pretty adamant, Joanna and Matt were pretty adamant about making sure everybody pretty much has the same wording for this activity. So the answer would be no. However, I think if you want to kind of explain it a little further or give additional instructions to your students, you can certainly send them a message yourself through announcements or just direct messages to them.
Very
Oh,
good,
yes.
Maria.
Thank you. Yeah, my plan is actually, I was thinking about this already, that I probably would also just send a reminder to the students before this activity post, just reminding them, hey, you need to make sure to complete this, otherwise you're going to lose 20 GPS points. So that's my plan.
Yeah, we could craft a message too to shoot out to the students as a reminder if we wanted to have that as well. Like so it's in the sandbox for next month. We could put together an email to send out.
Yes, and this will just remain on the platform. We don't need to do anything else with them at this point, unless later on maybe we're told otherwise. But right now we just check to make sure they complete it and they complete it satisfactorily, and then give them or deduct points if necessary. Okay, any other questions? We think, well, I'm sure that there'll probably be some questions later on as we get to this part of the, um, the course and the students are completing it. So quiet.
Yeah, I think too
Oh,
that this month might be a little rough, but after this month, they'll already be familiar with it um, because they're doing it also in, I want to say DGL. This is where my mind is. So, in
um,
the previous class, so.
Viet asked a good question, and he said, what do we do if some ask for extensions to complete this? Like, let's say maybe they didn't complete it by the deadline and we gave them a 0, or we deducted GPS points and they said, oh, I want to I want to do it. What do we do? Um, Personally,
I'm
I'm okay
inclined,
with that.
personally, I'm inclined with letting them do it
Yeah.
just because they're supposed to be practicing self-reflection, so this is good preparation for them for later, so I wouldn't want to strip them of the opportunity.
And the purpose, yes, and the purpose of it is for them to do it. So if they forgot to do it or they didn't see it, like some students might do at the end, they just skip over the course evaluation part because this is lumped with that, and they're just like, I didn't realize I get points off. Then yeah, I'm okay with extending the activity to them so they can complete it and giving them back points. Because the purpose is uh, what Joanna and Matt wants to do is that all students complete it.
Yeah, and right now we're experimenting it with being an unweighted activity. There has been talk of making it a weighted activity at some point. If that ends up being the case, then we'll probably have a more formal way of assessing completion for this. But I don't know. We've bounced around some ideas. I don't know if English is planning on doing it weighted. Marie, do you remember?
I don't think so. I think they're also just right now, starting next month, all just PYP and DGL, or sorry, CRP. You said DGL earlier, Wendy. That got in my head.
Sorry.
CRP are doing it this month, and then next month, the next Core 4 class is going to start on it. Um, but for now, it's just GPS points. I think that's what whatever it ends up being, whether it's going to be GPS points or professionalism points, I think all of Core 4 are going to have to be on the same page with that.
Yeah, they did stress consistency for this. Good questions. Anybody else have any questions? And as we're going through the process in week 4, feel free if you are unsure about anything to reach out and we can kind of talk through it together.
Yes, and these are a lot of changes, but hopefully it won't take too long in the process we already have when we're closing out the class or doing our AO stuff.
Alrighty. Well, I think that we can close up shop here. If you guys don't have any other questions, let you get back to it.
Yay.
Well, yay. Okay. You're welcome. Thank you guys for sharing 22 minutes of your time with us. Hopefully that wasn't excruciatingly painful for you.
Yes.
All right.
Especially on a
We did
Monday after
record this.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah. We did record this in case you want to listen to it again before bed this evening, if you're having trouble falling asleep, perhaps. So we will shoot that out to you guys. Okay.
All right,
All
going once,
right.
going twice. I'm going to stop the recording. All right.